Good morning, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing another video to you on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know. And I want to talk about an important idea about manufacturing quality and standards in connection with a true story about lighting, actual high intensity lighting that you see in parking lots and on streets and such. There are many different kinds of lights, and I'm not going to go really far into it, but for example, you've seen, I'm sure, this kind of light before with the yellowish hue to it. It's a high pressure sodium bulb. They're pretty affordable and efficient. That's why you see them a lot everywhere. There are a handful of common technologies in use for lighting of this kind. There's the high pressure sodium that I mentioned. There's metal halide, which is a whiter light. And then there's the mercury vapor, which gives off kind of a slightly bluish tint to it. But I have recently seen the emergence of some LED lighting, high intensity LED for street lights and such, that it looks a little funny. And what caught my eye actually was that one light in particular near my location is very purple. It's not subtle. I thought that it must be a special utility light designed to power a camera of some kind that's outside of normal human vision. I couldn't understand why this light was so purple, so I actually looked into it, and turns out there's an explanation. So I'm going to share the explanation that I saw, and I'm going to tell you my interpretation of the situation. Now that I've heard the answer, there's actually a better answer. So the answer I saw was that these purple lights are emerging everywhere, not just in a handful of places, but across the country and perhaps the world, because they are very cheap. These LED lights, turns out it's LED, it has presumably a filter on it that's supposed to turn the source light into a more natural light. But according to the explanation I saw, the filter was of shoddy quality in production, in manufacturing. They used subpar materials, was my explanation, which degrade over time, and many times they degrade so quickly that by the time the light itself is delivered to the person building something or receiving it, it has already become skewed towards purple, just because it's not doing its job as a light filter anymore. So here's my interpretation of this explanation. And actually, I'm seeing this kind of explanation for many, many things. The spirit is one that is designed to distract you from the actual truth of the situation. As I see it, the truth here is that somebody designed this thing and didn't care what they were doing. It wasn't so much about subpar materials or cheap materials. I think it was more about somebody didn't know how to design the light correctly. And I think the reason that wasn't given as the answer to the question is because there is an administration that's kind of scared right now about people hearing why quality is starting to drop. And it has to do with what I just said. People don't care. They don't know. Somewhere between not caring and not knowing, they're just grabbing the bag of money and running away fast. So now we have thousands or millions of these lights that don't emit natural light anymore. And that's not really a huge problem as far as I see it, but it's a very obvious consequence of somebody taking a job who was either not qualified, not motivated correctly, or just didn't even care enough to do the job right. Even if you have only cheap materials at your disposal, in engineering, you can make do. You can work around that if you know that in advance. You can borrow from something else or work around it somehow. And the only explanation I can see that makes sense is that somebody either didn't know or didn't care what they were doing. And now we have this design that's been rolled out into production. These purple lights are showing up everywhere. And while they're very pretty to look at, they defeat the purpose, because you're supposed to be able to make out details with a more natural colored light. That's really the goal of lighting, if you ask me. We're not trying to have a disco out here on the side of the freeway. So anyway, in conclusion, my concern is that it's being covered up. My concern isn't the light. It's not that somebody did a bad job. It's that the explanation for these kinds of problems is being skewed towards, oh, well, it was a budget problem. We just didn't have the right materials. Because you can't really argue with that, right? Okay, well, we understand budget problems. I guess that's the end of the story. No need to look further. But when it becomes an education problem, when it becomes a motivation problem, or an unsupportable demand for quality that just can't be met anymore because things are falling apart problem, they don't want to talk about that. That's a big, scary subject. And it gets worse when they refuse to talk about it. And that's where we're at, as far as I can see. We're at the point where we're just not hearing the truth about anything, including and especially the failure of streetlights. I mean, that's not a huge deal, but they make other stuff. That's the thing. They make lots of stuff, don't they? So if you don't demand the truth, if you don't demand accountability and try to at least understand why things are going sideways, I'm not sure how much sympathy I can have for you, to be honest. You have to take an active role in understanding your world at some point. You have to try to be understood, and you have to try to understand, or else there's no helping you. You can't just believe everything you're told, follow orders, and expect things to go on. It takes more than that. Sometimes you got to question things. Sometimes you got to refuse things and say, this is not good enough. Sometimes you have to say, this is not perfect, and it's not even good enough. We're not going to do it. So anyway, reach out with questions or comments to whitehotrobot@gmail.com. Thank you.